When humanity finally ventures beyond their dying world, the galaxy expects another weak species begging for scraps. Instead, they get something far more terrifying. A human security contractor named Vesper Wilde accepts what seems like easy money, escorting a group of young Vehlkor nobles through a training facility on Station Kef 9. But when the station's notorious combat arena suffers a catastrophic malfunction, releasing its most deadly specimens into the corridors, the alien cubs learn a horrifying truth. That soft, smiling creature they'd been mocking. She's not prey. She's the thing their nightmares forgot to warn them about. This is the story of how 6 young apex predators watched a fragile biped do the impossible, and had to reconcile a universe-shattering realization. Humans aren't just dangerous. They're what happens when evolution decides to weaponize stubbornness, wrap it in breakable skin, and set it loose on an unsuspecting cosmos. The first time I saw a human, I thought someone was playing an elaborate prank. My name is Threx Nowell, junior xenobiology student, and 5th son of the Vehlkor ascendancy. And I'm telling you this because what happened on Station Kef 9 changed everything I thought I knew about the food chain. Humans had only been in Galactic Council space for maybe 8 cycles, short little things, mostly bald except for weird patches on their heads, built like they'd snap if you sneezed too hard. Their homeworld was some backwater dirtball they'd nearly destroyed themselves. And word around the stations was they'd only gotten FTL by reverse engineering a crashed Kulvath probe. Adorable, really, like watching cubs play with their parents' weapons. So when Headmaster Vehlkor announced our security escort for the combat facility tour would be human, we all had a good laugh about it. Perhaps she can protect us by boring the specimens to death with stories of Earth's single moon. My clutch brother Rennick snorted, his tail spikes rattling with amusement. The human arrived 30 minutes later. She was small, maybe came up to my mid-chest, and I'm considered short for a Vehlkor, wearing what looked like standard contractor gear, black and gray, nothing fancy. Her hair was pulled back in some kind of knot thing, and her skin was this odd pale brown, like sand that couldn't quite decide what color it wanted to be. She had these green eyes though, predator's eyes, which was weird because everything else about her screamed prey species. Vesper Wilde, she said, extending one of those ridiculous 5-fingered hands. I'll be your babysitter for the next 6 hours. Try not to die. It makes my performance reviews awkward. Rennick laughed. Actually laughed. A human making jokes about keeping us safe. What's next? A glimmerwing lecturing on combat tactics. Her smile didn't change. Funny thing about glimmerwings, their venom can drop a Kravik in 4 seconds, underestimating species because they look harmless. That's how Darwin Awards get handed out. Darwin Awards? I asked, curiosity getting the better of me. Human thing. It's what we call it when someone removes themselves from the gene pool in spectacular fashion. Usually involves overconfidence and poor risk assessment. She checked some device on her wrist. Speaking of which, we're burning daylight. Let's move. Station Kef 9 was one of the premier combat training facilities in the sector. Think of it as a zoo, military academy and gladiatorial arena all mashed together. They kept specimens from hundreds of worlds, everything from standard predators to genuinely horrifying things that made you grateful for reinforced walls. Our tour group consisted of 6 Vehlkor nobles, all of us studying xenobiology or combat tactics, plus one human who looked like she'd rather be literally anywhere else. The first few exhibits went fine. We saw a thornback ravager, easily 3 times Vesper's size, all scales and teeth and bad attitude. We watched it tear through a combat dummy in seconds. Impressive bite force, Vesper commented, making notes on her datapad. Terrible stamina though. Notice how it's already breathing heavy? Sprint predator. Give it the slip for 30 seconds and it's done. You speak as if you could outrun it, said Vehlkor, the only female in our group. She was being polite, but I could hear the condescension dripping from her words. I couldn't, but I could outlast it. Vesper glanced at the Ravager, then at us. How long can you hold your breath? 3, maybe 4 minutes, Rennick answered. Standard for Vehlkor physiology. Cool, I can do 15. Humans are pursuit predators. We're built to just keep going. It's kind of our thing. I stored that information away, not sure if I believed it. 15 minutes without breathing? That seemed like the kind of boasting prey species did to feel dangerous. We should have paid more attention. The incident happened at Exhibit 47. Station Kep 9's pride and joy was something they called a void reaver. Imagine if nightmares could breed with hate itself, then wrap the offspring in obsidian razors. 4 meters of murder, 6 limbs ending in claws that could shred hull plating, mandibles that dripped acid, and a hunting intelligence that made you want to check your closet before bed. They kept it in a reinforced cell with 6 redundant containment fields. We were standing at the observation deck, safely behind 15 centimeters of transparent aluminum, when the power fluctuation hit. Later we'd learn it was sabotage. Some idiot trying to steal genetic samples cut the wrong conduit. In the moment though, all we knew was that every light on the deck went red, alarms started screaming, and the Void Reaver's containment fields dropped. All 6 of them. "Oh, that's not ideal," Vesper said, which I'd later learn was human for we're monumentally screwed. The Reaver hit the observation window 3 seconds later. The supposedly unbreakable transparent aluminum spider web, not shattered, but definitely compromised. "Back door now." Vesper's voice had changed. Gone was the sarcastic Contractor. This was something else. Something sharp, single file, fast but controlled. "Rennick, you're first. Move. You cannot seriously expect us to follow a human's orders during combat situation," Vehlkor started. The window exploded inward. The Reaver came through like liquid death, all those limbs finding purchase. Acid mandibles clicking, its 6 eyes locked on the closest target. Me. I froze. Every instinct I had, all that predator heritage the Vehlkor are so proud of, just locked up, because looking at that thing, I understood with perfect clarity that I was prey. Vesper moved between us. She didn't have weapons, didn't have armor, just that gray and black contractor gear and those green eyes. The Reaver was easily 6 times her mass, should have gone right through her. Should have. "Hey there, beautiful," she said, and I swear to the ancestors, she winked at it. "Wanna dance?" Then she threw herself at 4 meters of apex predator like gravity was a suggestion and common sense had never been invented. What happened next shouldn't have been possible. Vesper went low, sliding under the Reaver's first strike, those ridiculous human fingers finding some kind of cable on her belt. The cable snapped out, wrapped around one of the creature's limbs, and she used the momentum to swing herself onto its back. The Reaver screamed, bucking, trying to dislodge her. She held on with her legs, wrapped around its thorax section, both hands working at something on her harness. "Any time you want to run would be fantastic," she shouted at us while actively wrestling murder incarnate. We ran. Well, scrambled, panicked, choose your verb. We made it maybe 20 meters down the corridor before curiosity and horror made me look back. Vesper was still on the Reaver's back. She'd gotten some kind of device attached to its neural cluster, right where the head met the body. The creature was going berserk, slamming itself against walls, trying to reach her with those acid mandibles. She was just holding on, one hand gripping a ridge of its carapace, the other pressing something on her wrist. "This is gonna be loud," she yelled. The device on the Reaver's neck sparked, hummed, then delivered what must have been a catastrophic electrical charge directly into its central nervous system. The creature seized, every muscle locking, then crashed to the deck plating hard enough to dent it. Vesper rode it down, rolled off, landed in a crouch. She was breathing hard, bleeding from a dozen small cuts where the Reaver's carapace had cut through her gear. One leg looked wrong, probably twisted when the creature had bucked, but she was grinning, actually grinning. "Station security's en route," she said, checking that wrist device again. "Containment teams should have the Reaver sedated and back in holding in 10 minutes. Everyone okay?" We just stared. "Right," she said. Shock. Normal response. "Let's get you cubs somewhere with fewer homicidal specimens, and maybe some of that fancy Vehlkor liquor you're all not supposed to have in your dorms." She limped toward us, favoring that bad leg, leaving small spots of red blood on the deck plating. Human blood, I realized. The same stuff that flowed through every fragile prey species in the galaxy. Except Vesper Wilde wasn't prey. And watching her walk toward us, battered and bleeding and still making jokes, I had to confront a terrifying realization. What exactly had humanity been doing for the last few million years of their evolution that produced this? The medical bay on Station Kef 9 was designed for species that actually made sense. Thick hides, regenerative capabilities, sensible pain tolerances. Vesper sat on the examination table while a very confused Kolvoth medic tried to understand why this fragile biped was refusing sedation. "It's just a dislocated knee," she said, waving off the concern. "Pop it back, slap a brace on it, I'll be fine." "The pain receptors in human joints are extremely sensitive," the medic insisted, his 4 eyes blinking in worried sequence. "This will be excruciating." "Yeah, well, excruciating builds character." She looked at us, still huddled in the corner like scared hatchlings. "You guys gonna stand there all day, or are we doing the whole processing trauma thing? I can recommend a good therapist. 3 actually. I keep them on speed dial." "How?" Vehlkor finally found her voice. "How did you do that?" Vesper shrugged, winced as the movement pulled at her injuries.
Do what?
"The Reaver? That was just basic hostile specimen management. You identify the neural cluster, disrupt it. Wait for security, standard protocol." Standard protocol does not involve mounting the specimen like some kind of insane show performance. Rennick's tail spikes were fully extended, a Vehlkor threat display that Vesper completely ignored. "Well, your standard protocol was freezing like statues, so I improvised." She grabbed a bottle of something from the medical tray, took a long drink. Whatever it was made the medic's eyes widen. "Look, you want the honest answer? Humans are persistently stupid. We see something that wants to kill us and our first instinct isn't run away. It's how do I make this thing regret that decision? That is the mindset of an apex predator," I said quietly, "not a species that looks like you." Her green eyes fixed on me. Really looked at me for the first time. "Kid, here's the thing nobody tells you about apex predators. It's not about size or claws or venom. It's about refusing to quit. My species, we hunted mammoths by following them until they collapsed from exhaustion. We survived ice ages with nothing but rocks and attitude. We looked at fire, which kills basically everything, and decided to make it our friend. We're not the biggest or the strongest or the fastest. We're just too stubborn to know when we're supposed to die." The medic returned with a compression brace. "I must insist on anesthesia." "Insist away, Doc. I need to stay sharp. Station's still in partial lockdown and these cubs are my responsibility until their headmaster collects them." She gripped the edges of the exam table. "Do it quick, yeah?" What happened next made me understand something fundamental about humans. The medic manipulated her knee joint back into place. The sound was horrible, like breaking wood. Vesper's face went white, every muscle in her body locked, and a sound came out of her throat that was pure agony compressed into a single breath. But she didn't scream, didn't thrash, just held onto that table until her knuckles turned colorless and rode out the pain. When it was done, she let out a shaky laugh. "See? Character building. I'm basically a better person now." "You are insane," Vehlkor whispered. "Probably. But I'm alive and so are you, so let's call it a win." She slid off the table, testing the braced knee carefully. "Now pretty sure the station bar offers something called a Vehlkor sunrise that's supposedly lethal to most species. I'm willing to bet my hazard pay I can drink you under the table." An hour later, we were in the station's officer lounge. Turned out when you save a bunch of noble cubs from certain death, people gave you access to the nice facilities. Vesper was on her 3rd Vehlkor sunrise, which should have put her in a medical coma. She looked mildly tipsy. "Your alcohol tolerance is abnormal," our combat tactics instructor Vorn Kell observed. He joined us after the incident report was filed, mostly to assess the psychological damage. Most species would be experiencing severe hepatic distress. Humans have been fermenting stuff and drinking it for like 10,000 years. Our livers are basically chemical warfare units at this point. She raised her glass, to evolution making terrible decisions that occasionally work out. "I need to understand something," I said. "The Vehlkor sunrise was definitely affecting my judgment. When that Reaver came through the window, why didn't you run? You had time. You could have escaped with us." Vesper was quiet for a moment, swirling the bioluminescent liquid in her glass. "You ever hear about persistence hunting? Old Earth technique. You pick an animal, usually something faster and stronger than you, and you just follow it. Hour after hour, day after day if necessary. It runs, you track it. It rests, you catch up. Eventually it realizes you're never going to stop, that you'll follow it until one of you dies. And the thing is, you've already decided you're okay with either outcome. That is profoundly disturbing, Vehlkor said. Yeah, humans are kind of horrifying when you think about it, Vesper grinned. But here's the fun part. That same stupid, stubborn, persistently annoying trait, it works for protecting things too. You were my assignment. Those cubs, that's what you called yourselves earlier, right? Those cubs were my responsibility. And humans don't abandon responsibility. It's literally not in our programming. Even when facing certain death, Vehlkor asked. Especially then, because if we die protecting something, at least we die doing something that matters. That's very human. We're really into meaningful deaths. Got songs about it and everything. Rennick was staring at his drink like it held answers. The Vehlkor pride themselves on being warrior predators. We have dominated our world through strength and ferocity for millions of cycles. And today I watched something that weighs maybe 40 kilos and bruises like overripe fruit. Do what I could not. How do I reconcile that? You don't. Vesper's voice was gentler now. You just accept that the universe is weird and scary and doesn't care about your assumptions. Every species has their thing, right? You guys have those tail spikes and can see in spectrums. I can't even imagine. Kolvath have that crazy regeneration. Humans, we have spite and endurance, and this really concerning ability to look at horrible odds and think, yeah, but what if I try anyway? Is your entire species like this? I asked. Oh no, plenty of humans are perfectly reasonable and sensible. They're just not the ones who end up in security contracting on frontier stations. She finished her drink. The reasonable ones stay home, get normal jobs, don't wrestle alien murder machines for barely adequate pay. Me? I looked at college debt and thought, you know what sounds better? Seeing weird aliens and occasionally punching things. Life choices were made. Station security arrived then, with our headmaster. Official reports needed filing, parents needed contacting, the whole bureaucratic nightmare that followed near-death experiences. As we were leaving, I turned back to Vesper. Thank you, I said, for not letting us die. She smiled, and it wasn't sarcastic this time, just tired and genuine. Anytime, kid. Try not to need rescuing again, though. My knee is going to hate me for weeks. 3 cycles later, I was back at the Vehlkor Ascendancy Academy. My xenobiology thesis topic had changed. Instead of studying traditional apex predators, I was researching pursuit predators and endurance hunters, specifically, humans. Turned out Vesper was right about the persistence hunting thing. Humans had literally run animals to death on old Earth. They could regulate their body temperature through sweating, something almost no other species could do efficiently. They could consume a wider variety of foods than nearly any other sapient race. They healed from injuries that would cripple others. They had this weird ability to function on almost no sleep when necessary. But the really terrifying part, the thing that made me understand why humans were spreading through the galaxy faster than anyone expected, they cooperated. Not just with each other, but with anyone. They made friends with species that should have been predators or prey. They adopted alien pets. They learned languages and customs and went out of their way to understand others. That same stubborn persistence that made them horrifying in combat made them loyal to a fault in friendship. The galaxy had spent millions of years evolving apex predators. Big, strong, fast, venomous, armored. Every advantage you could think of. Then humans showed up. Soft, weak, fragile little things that refused to quit, turned everything into a weapon, and decided the best survival strategy was making friends with everyone and fighting anything that threatened those friends. We'd been asking the wrong question, not why is the apex wearing human skin, but why did we ever think apex predators needed claws and fangs? Humanity had something far more dangerous. They had each other, and they had decided that was enough. My thesis was titled Persistence, Predation, and Social Bonding in Homo sapiens, Why Underestimation is Fatal. It won awards, got published in 3 major xenobiology journals. But every time I presented it, I thought about Vesper Wilde, bleeding, limping, making jokes while riding a void reaver like it owed her money. And I included one line that always got attention. If you ever meet a human who smiles when things get dangerous, run, not because they're afraid, but because they've already calculated the odds, accepted them, and decided to make those odds regret everything. The cubs watched her fight in silence, and when it was over, when the impossible had become simply what happened, one of us finally asked the question that changed everything. Why is the apex wearing human skin? Turns out we had it backward. The apex wasn't wearing human skin. Humanity had always been apex. We'd just been too busy looking at claws to notice the persistence staring back at us.